Kia ora, good evening. Former long-serving City Councillor Thelma Buck is supporting Councillor Ian Pottinger's call for an independent review of the appointment of City Councillors to the boards of council-owned companies. 5 councillors will be unable to vote over whether uncalled shares should be used to increase Holdco's lending potential by $132 million because they sit on Holdco boards. Hunter Andrews asked the former councillor about a possible review of council's directorship policy.
I think that it's long overdue that they had this. There doesn't seem to be getting any less, there just seems to be getting more people, and some of the people, I believe, haven't got the right credentials to be on those groups.
I put it to Ian Pottinger that perhaps it's seen as a bit of a perk. Is that just me being cynical, or is that the feeling you got when you were around that council table?
Well, I objected 1 year to somebody getting a job on the electricity, and I said I didn't see why they should get a job on, I think it was EIL at that stage, because they weren't an EIL customer. And I was really slapped down and told that that's not the case, and everybody looked at me as if I was, you know, a dragon, which I'm sure they know I am.
I'm sure you're not, Thelma.
but I believe that you know, nowadays it's 28,000 on top of your council pay if you're on Holdco or on a committee, 50,000 for the Holdco person who's in charge, and they've now got 5 people instead of 3, which they started with on the airport. And one of them happens to be the mayor, and he's getting an extra 20,000. Now, I would be embarrassed about that, because the airport doesn't make any money, and they've got 5 directors. I don't know how much in directors' fees they're dragging out, but we've got people that are, well, last week they had a sleep on the street night. We've got people that are short of food. I had a wee girl here for tea last night who tells me, when her son takes his lunch to school in the morning, one of the teachers check it to make sure he's bringing in food. And
so that money could be going somewhere else.
Yeah, there's better places for the money.
Were you ever approached to take on a directorship?
No, I would never take on a directorship. I'm a chip and egg person and cook steaks. My mentality and my arithmetic would not go to the sort of things that the people around there are supposed to be looking at. And no, I'd never. The mayor asked us every time we went in what sort of positions we wanted. Were we interested in those things? And my answer was always no, I wasn't interested in that.
And the public consultation process over the request by Invercargill City Holdings Limited, or Holdco, to increase its uncalled shareholding from the current level of $67,650,000 to $200 million took another step forward on Friday. At 5 p.m. Friday, Council stopped accepting public submissions into increasing the amount Holdco can borrow by over $132 million. There were 7 written submissions received and 1 comment made on the City Council's Facebook page. Submissions will be heard by Council in a week's time on the 20th. Relief for anglers with new research that shows eating trout from rivers in areas where 1080 poison has been dropped is safe. Concerns were raised by Fish and Game New Zealand and Freshwater Anglers Association recently about potential risks to humans, but fears have been allayed due to research. The Department of Conservation engaged Nelson's Cawthron's Institute to carry out laboratory tests where trout were force-fed 1080 poison. Initial assessments show wild trout fished from areas where 1080 has been applied don't pose a food safety risk to humans.
The trout were force-fed a gel which contained 1080, and from that they calculated that if a trout of about 2 kilograms ate about 30 mice, then there was the potential over a short period of time, about 10 days, for the trout to contain detectable levels of 1080 in their flesh. And so there was a potential risk there, but it was a very, very low risk, and people would have to eat an awful lot of trout. I can't remember the exact amount, but certainly many, many kilograms of trout at one go to have anywhere near a level of 1080 that might cause them any harm. But since then there's been more information come out from MPI in the last week, which downplays the risk even further, so that I think anyway, and I think the view in Fish and Game generally is that it's a very low risk for anglers to eat trout that may have been affected. Of course, the department has put 1080 in a fairly few small areas. Waikaia, the headwaters of Waikaia is one. There's a few areas in the Fiordland area, the Clinton River, for example, and in the Irisburn as well, which is a tributary of Lake Manapuri. But there are some very strict protocols for laying 1080 baits now. They have to be more than 50 metres away from a major watercourse where you might expect to find a trout that could eat a mouse. Mice are very shy when it comes to 1080 baits. They seem to be able to detect it, and trials done with mice show that they don't eat it much, and also with the strict protocols they have about where you can lay baits in relation to river courses. Now, there's a low risk of any mice living beside a river that could get poisoned and then get into a stream. But I appreciate that a lot of people do have concerns about 1080, and they think there could be a risk. So what Fish and Game is saying is that if people are fishing in an area where 1080 bait has been laid within the last month or so, and they have some concerns, and they shouldn't eat any trout that they catch. But if they do, the risk is very, very low, and there's no harm with them, no risk of them come to any harm.
The brightest young motocross talents in the country were in Invercargill over the weekend for the annual New Zealand Mini Motocross Championships. The cream of riders from all over parts of Australasia and the host Southland Motorcycle Club, as certain riders and supporters alike were impressed when they first set eyes on the circuit dubbed the Sandpit at Otatara. The purpose-built Otatara circuit became a battlefield for the rising stars of the sport, including local riders such as Jack Simon, Mitchell Weir, Ryan Tutty and Cormac Buchanan, all of whom won titles. The riders are all aged between 4 and 11, riding bikes with engine capacities anywhere between 50cc and 112. Stay with us after the break. More from the weekend, including street art, a perfect match and horse racing making history. Welcome back. Friday night was a night out on the streets for a hardy group of volunteers hoping to highlight the need for emergency accommodation in the city. The group spent 14 hours on the street. Breathing Space Southland Trust spokesperson Colin Wood says that while the night was fun, it was all about raising the profile of the cause.
Yeah, it was a good evening. We had good people round and had a bit of fun and didn't get an awful lot of sleep, but that's the nature of the animal.
And do you think you got a good feel for what it is for those people that do spend every night out or most nights out on the street?
Oh, truth be told, we're only playing at it. We could go home, sleep well the next night, wash our clothes, have a shower. You do get hints of things you don't expect. It's really noisy in town. Drunk people are wandering around. There's lots of interruptions. Rained at 3 o'clock and all the cardboard got wet. But again, we have the luxury of going home afterwards, and people who are sleeping rough don't.
A great way to highlight the cause though, isn't it?
Oh, a great way of bit of publicity. Quite a lot of fun actually. We'll do it next year, so if anyone's keen, they should be in.
Where to now for you guys? What's the next step in this process of finding accommodation?
We're still fundraising. We're aiming to get a year's worth of budget so that we can run for a year with a support worker and a place for people to stay for up to 3 days. We're more than halfway there, which is really encouraging, but we've still got a fair way to go. So there's applications going in looking for funding. If anyone's got spare, if anyone's willing to contribute, Give a Little has a website where they can make a contribution.
Preserving the central Southland history of the sport of kings looks set to be a sure bet thanks to a new museum. The Winton Racing Historical Museum opened yesterday at the Winton Jockey Club's Cup Day meeting. Racing memorabilia from the turn of last century was uncovered after Bronwyn Clark of Winton discovered a stash of historical racing records, including photos and minute books for the Winton Jockey Club dating back to the turn of the 19th century. The historical finds prompted the concept of creating a museum to showcase the region's racing history. Another event at yesterday's race meeting was the ever-popular Fashion of the Field. The public will start noticing new art around the city as 10 artists transform drab roadside utility boxes into public art. Today, Cromwell public artist Andrew Price was out in the southern sun, giving a box on Ellis Road a makeover with a Burt Munro feel.
I believe strongly in public art. I believe that everybody should be able to enjoy it, and I believe it does a lot for engendering pride in its local community when it's up. So it's a great thing to put up.
And a lot better than just a bland utility, isn't it, on the side of the road?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm hoping, through the paints that I've used and the composition, from what passers-by have been saying, people can see it from quite a distance already.
You have had a lot of feedback, haven't you, and offers of food and things?
Yeah, great southern hospitality. It's been incredible. It's been incredibly humbling, and just some really, really kind people, and everybody's just been asking about it. And fortunately, they've all been really positive comments. Lots of people enjoying it.
You're from Cromwell. What sort of other work have you done? Is this small scale comparatively?
This is still big, but the works I've done in Cromwell and in Alex are a lot bigger. Normally I do murals, but really my work is public art of all kinds, so it works with youth and children and community groups, and it's really just about sort of shattering those assumptions, and let's see what we can do if we focus our efforts and work together.
A collaborative exhibition titled Perfect Match is a blend of outstanding works from galleries in Gore and Invercargill. On show at Gore's Eastern Southland Gallery are a combination of works from Anderson Park Art Gallery and ESG. It's the first time a collaborative exhibition has been undertaken by the two iconic institutions, although the idea was initially born out of a desire to make works from the currently closed Anderson Park Gallery accessible to public. Perfect Match pairs works from each institution's permanent collections, featuring paintings and graphic works on show alongside some of the treasures that have been hidden away in storerooms until now. The unique viewing experience runs until Sunday. Next on Sport, we catch up with the Southland Stags at the airport after their agonisingly close Ranfurly Shield challenge. From the news team, good night.